His offspring, they advised him to beget children, assuring him that this would grant him access to the realms of bliss. Moved by their words, Mandapala reflected on how he could fulfill this obligation quickly and efficiently. He realized that birds were the most fertile creatures in the world and decided to assume the form of a Sarndika bird. In this guise, he mated with a female bird named Jarata, and together they produced 4 sons who were skilled in the recitation of the Vedas. Mandapala prepared to leave his children with Jarata. He was aware that Ignai's impending visit would soon engulf the forest. Fearing for their safety, Mandapala sought to persuade the god of fire to spare his offspring. With reverence and humility, he addressed Ignai, acknowledging the deity's power and importance in the universe. Mandapala praised Ignai as the embodiment of creation, destruction, and sustenance, the very essence of life itself. He invoked the various aspects of Ignai's nature from his role as a carrier of sacred offerings to his status as Vryaspati, the Lord of Wisdom. The sage's words were like a gentle rain that soothed Ignai's fiery spiritus. Mandapala concluded his praise. Ignai was pleased and gratified by the Rishi's devotion. In response to Mandapala's request, the god of fire agreed to spare his children, ensuring their safety amidst the flames that consumed Kandava forest. Thus, the Sarnikas were saved, and Mandapala's resolve to fulfill his duty as a father was finally achieved. In this way, Vaisampayana revealed the story behind the miraculous escape of the Sarnikas from Ignai's conflagration, highlighting the importance of family, duty, and devotion in achieving spiritual liberation. In the heart of the Kandava forest, a terrible fire blazed forth, sending waves of panic through its inhabitants. Among them were the infant birds, whose mother Jarata was beside herself with worry, her chicks still unfledged and helpless, cowered at her feet as she wept aloud of the cruel fate that has befallen us. Jarata cried, her voice trembling with anguish, "This fire, which illuminates the entire universe, threatens to consume everything in its path. My poor babies, how can I save you? You are too young to escape on your own, and I'm no match for this inferno. What should I do? Whom should I leave behind? The thought of abandoning any one of my precious chicks is unbearable." The infant birds gazed up at their mother with wide eyes, their tiny beaks open in distress. They seemed to sense her dilemma, and one by one they spoke out. "Mother, please don't worry about us," said the eldest chick. "You must think of yourself. Now, if you stay here, we'll all perish together. But if you escape, you can have more children, and our father's legacy will live on." The other chicks nodded in agreement, their tinny voices chiming in to echo their brother's words. Jarata's heart was torn asunder by her children's words. She knew they were right. She had a duty to ensure the continuation of their family line. But how could she abandon them to certain death? She thought back to the words of her mate, who had entrusted their eldest son Jaratharai with the responsibility of carrying on their lineage. As she pondered, a glimmer of hope appeared. "There's a hole in the ground nearby," she said, her voice filled with determination. "It belongs to a mouse, but I can cover its entrance with dust. You'll be safe inside until the fire passes. Then when it's out, I'll return and clear the way for you." The chicks looked at each other uncertainly, without feathers or wings. They were vulnerable prey for any creature that might inhabit the hole. "But what about the mouse?" one of them asked, their voice trembling with fear. "If we go inside, it will surely eat us." Jarata's expression turned grim. She knew her children were right. The hole was a double-edged sword. But she also knew that staying in the open meant certain death. At the pause of the raging fire, the chicks looked up at their mother, and one by one they spoke out. "We'd rather die in the fire than be eaten alive," they said, their voices firm with resolve. "It's a noble death, approved by the wise." Jarata's heart swelled with pride as she listened to her children's words. She knew that she had taught them well to think of themselves, and in the heart of Kandava, a mother bird named Jarata stood beside her children, watching as they debated whether to enter a hole in the ground for safety. The young ones were hesitant, fearing that other creatures might dwell within and harm them. They pointed out that death was uncertain if they stayed outside, but certain if they entered the hole. Jarata listened patiently, her eyes filled with concern. She remembered the events of earlier that day, when a hawk had swooped down and carried away a mouse from the same hole. She recalled pronouncing a blessing on the hawk, wishing him a golden body in heaven for taking away their enemy. The mother bird's words were meant to reassure her children, but they remained skeptical. "I saw it with my own eyes, Jarata," exclaimed the hawk, seized the mouse, and flew away. "You have nothing to fear. Enter this hole trustfully." But her sons continued to doubt her story. They questioned whether she was telling the truth or simply trying to ease their fears. "Why should you, a young and handsome bird, put yourself at risk for us. They asked, "You could seek out your husband and have more children. We are strangers to you." After all, Jarta's sons urged her to leave them behind and find safety elsewhere, while they would brave the flames of Agnias. Their mother listened to their words. A mix of emotions played on her face. She knew that she had done everything in her power to protect her children, but they refused to trust her with a heavy heart. Jarta realized that she could no longer stay with them and made the difficult decision to leave Kandava. As she flew away from her sons, Agnias' flames approached, casting a fiery glow over the landscape. The young birds watched in awe as the blazing inferno drew near, and it was then that Jartarai, the eldest of the four, began to speak. In a small village, nestled between two great mountains, there lived a family of 5 brothers: Jartarai, Sarasrika, Stamamitra, Drona, and their eldest brother Mandapala. As the summer sun beat down upon the land, the brothers noticed that their peaceful lives were about to change. Forever one day, as they sat together under the shade of a gin tree, Jartarai spoke up, his voice filled with wisdom. "My dear brothers," he said, "the wise and awakened soul remains vigilant in the face of death, feeling no pain when the hour approaches. But those who are perplexed and unaware will suffer greatly at its arrival." His words hung in the air like a challenge, as if daring each brother to reflect on their own mortality. Sarasrika, the second eldest, smiled gently. "You are patient and intelligent, Jartarai," he said. "The time has come for us to face our fears together. Only one among us will find wisdom and bravery in this crisis." His words were laced with a quiet confidence that inspired his brothers. But Stamvamitra, the third brother, spoke up with a sense of responsibility. "We look to our eldest brother Mandapala as our protector," he said. "He is the one who will rescue us from danger. If he fails, what hope do we have?" His words were tinged with a hint of doubt and uncertainty. Drona, the youngest and most innocent of the brothers, trembled with fear. "Oh, dear Adnai," he cried out, "the cruel god of fire is coming for us. He has 7 tongues and 7 mouths, blazing with fury and consuming everything in his path." His voice was like a small child's, full of terror and pleading. As the brothers addressed their fears to the wind, they each devotedly sang an eulogistic hymn to Adnai, the god of fire. Jartarai began, "You are the soul of air, O Adnai. You are the body of the earth's vegetation. Water is your parent, and you are its child." His words were a gentle tribute to the power and beauty of nature. Sarasrika followed his voice, filled with longing. "O Adnai, our mother is not here, and we know not our father. We are small and helpless, like fledglings in the nest. Protect us, O Adnai, protect us with your 7 flames." His words were a heartfelt plea for shelter and protection. Stamamitra's hymn was a poetic tribute to the power of Adnai. "You are everything, O Adnai. The universe is established within you. You sustain every creature and support the cosmos itself." His words were like a prayer, full of reverence, and Audrono's hymn was a poignant expression of his own vulnerability. Oh, the forest was ablaze, its flames licking at the trees as the wind howled through the branches. Rishimanapala paced back and forth, his anxiety growing with each passing moment. His thoughts were consumed by the safety of his children, who had been born to him from a previous wife, Jarta. He had spoken to Adnai, the god of fire, on their behalf, but now he feared that his words may have been in vain. As he walked, Mandapala's mind turned to his current wife, Latpata. He spoke to her in hushed tones, sharing his concerns about their children's safety, but Latpata's response was laced with jealousy and anger. She accused Mandapala of being distracted by Jarta, and that his love for her was wanting. Mandapala tried to reassure Latpata, explaining that he was only thinking of their future together. But she would not be swayed. "You have 2 parties dividing your attention," she spat. "Go back to Jarta, for whom your heart is still sorrowing." With those words, Latpata turned and walked away, leaving Mandapala alone in the forest. Meanwhile, the fire had begun to subside, and Jarta had rushed to the spot where her children lived with their stepmother. Latpata, to her relief, she found them all safe and sound, though shaken by the ordeal. As they realized, Mandapala arrived on the scene, but his sons and their mother showed him little joy. Mandapala asked Jarta about her children, inquiring which one was the eldest and which the youngest. But instead of answering, Jarta lashed out at him, accusing him of abandoning her for Latpata's charms. "Go back to her," she spat. "You've left me once before, but you were unhappy where you were." Mandapala tried to explain himself, drawing a parallel between Jarta and Arundhati, who had been driven mad by jealousy in a past life. He warned that women can be treacherous even when they are wives. But Jarta's anger would not be placated, just as it seemed like the situation could not become any more tense. Mandapala's children came forward to worship him, and he began to speak kindly towards them once again. He gave them every assurance that all was well, and slowly, but surely, the atmosphere in the clearing began to shift from one of danger and hurt to one of peace and reconciliation. In the midst of a great calamity, Mandapala stood tall, his heart heavy with worry for his family's safety. The forest of Candiva, once teeming with life, was now ablaze, its trees and creatures consumed by the fire's flames of Agni, the god of fire. As the Brahmana watched in despair, he remembered the words of Agni himself, who had promised to spare Mandapala's family from harm. With newfound hope, Mandapala turned to his children, their eyes wide with fear as they beheld the Inferno before them. "My sons," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "I spoke to Agni on your behalf, and he has assured me of your safety. His power is great, but so too is your mother's virtue and your own inner strength." Mandapala's words were like a balm to their souls, soothing their fears and filling them with courage. The flames raged on, consuming everything in their path. Mandapala knew it was time to leave. He took his wife and sons by the hand, and together they made their way out of the doomed forest, leaving behind the chaos and destruction that Agni had unleashed upon it. They journeyed far and wide, seeking a new home where they could start. He knew meanwhile, in the midst of the Inferno, Agni grew stronger still, his power fueled by the rivers of fat and marrow that he devoured with ravenous hunger. As the flames reached their peak, he revealed himself to Arjuna, his eyes blazing with fury and his voice thundering through the skies. "Purandara, a king of the gods, descended from the firmament, surrounded by the Maruts, his celestial attendants. Your feat is one that even a god could not achieve. Purandara," declared his voice, "filled with awe, you have done what none other has done before. You have brought about a great transformation in this world." And so he offered them each a boon, one that would be impossible for any mortal to attain. Arjuna asked for the weapons of Indra, the mighty king of the gods, and Purandara agreed. "But with a caveat, the time will come when I shall give you these arms," he said. "But until then they remain out of your reach." Vasudeva, Arjuna's friend and companion, asked for something different, that his friendship with Arjuna might be eternal, and so Purandara granted him this boon, sealing their bond forever. With the boons given, Purandara ascended to heaven once more, accompanied by the Maruts and the celestials. Agni, sated by his feast of fat and blood, ceased his burning, his flames dying down as he spoke words of gratitude to Arjuna and Vasudeva. "You two are saviors among men.